So I want to talk to you about the Andor show.
Right.
This Star War. And we went through in a previous episode, there are many Star Wars. This is a Star War.
Right, okay.
In our previous episode, we went through all the D23 reactions and we mentioned Andor. And I think you said, Andor what?
Yeah.
And you were like, well, why should I care? This is a character that appeared in Rogue One 7 years ago. And I think the general sentiment from us is that we feel like any character that turns up in any series now could potentially get their whole entire show, whether or not we were interested in them or not. And just in case you don't remember, Cassian Andor is a character in Rogue One, and spoilers for Rogue One is that he dies at the end of Rogue One, like all the main characters do. And this is a prequel series set 5 years before the events of Rogue One, so that's sort of our time setting, about who, and sort of flashback sequences about who Cassian Andor is, what he's doing, and it's sort of building to this kind of momentum of like what's going on. And Disney Plus released the show with 3 episodes, which I thought was kind of strange because I was like, 3 episodes and then you're going to do weekly?
How many episodes in the season do we know?
I don't know.
8, 10?
It's something like 8, in that 8 to 10 realm. And when I saw that, I was a bit like, that's a bit strange because like, why do 3? And they did Kenobi, they did 2. Yeah. And I watched episode 1 and 2 together. And I enjoyed them, but the ends of the episodes never felt like that was one event and one thing in an episode. They really felt like they hard stopped. Right. And then the next day last night I watched episode 3, and I felt like, oh, I see why you did 3. This felt like the ending of those 3 episodes as one piece, so I see why you did it.
Like the first act of the series.
Like the first act, like introducing what it was. This is written and produced by Tony Gilroy, who did the screenplay for Rogue One and a few other Star Wars projects, but he also wrote the Bourne trilogy.
Yes. And also, if I may say, I believe, wasn't he brought in, I had a feeling, I might have to check this, one of the Gilroys, he's got a brother as well.
I think so, yeah.
One of the Gilroys, it probably was Tony Gilroy, I think was brought in to do the reshoots of Rogue One. And I'm pretty sure it was him.
Was it him?
That said that film was like in a mess.
Yeah.
So,
okay, fine.
Anyway, carry on.
You've also got Jonathan Freeman and Adriano Goldman, who are Emmy Award-winning cinematographers who worked on Boardwalk Empire and The Crown.
Wow, nice.
Very good credentials. And then you've got Nicholas Britell doing the score, who did Succession. So you've got quite a good
roster.
Many great ingredients for a very good show. And as I said, like the first 2 episodes I watched, I was like, okay, not much has happened. It's a lot of conversations. I can't really tell what it's doing. And it was when I finished the 3rd episode, I was like, I see what this is doing. Right now, after those 3 episodes, Andor has me quite excited, and I think it's got a lot of potential. It immediately, from the get-go, tries to communicate to the audience that this is different. This is like a premium product. This is like not in any way related to like the super space operatic force and magic and space wizards and the Sith and the Chosen One. It really decides it's like, this is more grown up, this is more grounded. And I think if on one side you've got Attack of the Clones and on the other side you've got Blade Runner 2049, this feels way much closer to a Blade Runner 2049 than it does to Attack of the Clones. Like just in tone, its presentation. And the opening scene is Cassian Andor in a rainy, neon-scorched town with a black hood and big brown jacket and boots walking through a like dirty underground. I'm like, that's Blade Runner. Like you're already telling me like this is the kind of sci-fi we're in. And there's not much that happens in the early episodes, but what I liked about the way in which it concluded episode 3 is it really showed me that like the people who are working on this show feel more like they have been in charge of creating this than like the overall Star Wars machine. Because when I watched Kenobi, which I think we were a little bit mixed about, and I think it was slightly, it really did feel like it was clinging on to like the old Star Wars format and trying to give it through this new modern lens. This really felt like, let's give a really great crime espionage thriller to these amazing TV veterans and also have it set in the Star Wars universe. I think there are certain elongated flashback sequences where Cassian is a child, where I was a bit like, this isn't that interesting. And in the end of the 3 episodes, I don't feel like all those long flashback sequences really served your plot. And it's a very slow burn. So I think I'll criticize it for in 3 episodes, like taking your time with some like child sequences that probably didn't need to be there. But the way in which it eventually mirrored a moment that happened in the past with the end of episode 3 and the way in which music was like beautifully crafted, kind of like the end of an episode of Succession, to match these two people, to give you a really good sense of who this character was. It was at the end of episode 3, I was like, this is kind of cool, and kind of interesting. And what I said about how it feeling much more grounded and there is no like dark cloaked Sith with electricity coming out of his hands. The villain is a completely opposite to what we're used to in Star Wars. So it is a guy called Deputy Inspector Khan, played by Kyle Soller, who is like this middle manager who's essentially been delegated the role of tracking down Cassian Andor by his boss, who's away, which is really sort of like an unremarkable person. But what's interesting about him is that he is this like slimy, kind of like skinny looking, non-event middle manager who he's more threatening because he needs to prove that he has authority and needs to use manipulation and power to justify his authority. And it actually makes for a more interesting dynamic between Andor, who's kind of an unremarkable guy on the street, and this guy who's just like been delegated this task to take him out. And already by the end of episode 3, it sort of became personal between them. And it just feels different, and it's telling you it's different. And I'm always kind of like rooting for Star Wars in a way, even though we're a little bit cynical from this. My expectations were like, I'm going to watch this for the show and hopefully I enjoy it, but if I don't, I'm not going to stick around. I'm actually quite like looking forward to seeing what it does next. I'm optimistic, the talent involved. You've also got Stellan Skarsgård in there, who's great at everything, and Fiona Shaw, who's also good. I think you should watch it.
Okay, I think I'll give it a go. I mean, what you just touched on is that it seems to be following the Rogue One DNA, which is that when they made Rogue One, they basically wanted to make a film a bit like the Dam Busters, like this old 1940s war film where the mission is at the end and it's all about the mission, and it's like everyone, a big climax. And you could even argue something like Top Gun Maverick even does that as well. It's like this big, like, we're all in it together, banded together, and the kind of the fatalism at the end of Rogue One is one of the best parts of that, because it's like it was the mission above everything else. So I like the fact they've kind of carried that DNA through and been like, why don't we take a genre and then retroactively put that in.
Really does feel like that.
The Star Wars
for the best.
I'm fine with that. I think also, no, there is no also. I think I'll try and sandwich it between House of Dragon and when
everything else is coming out.
There's so much suddenly, James. It's like
everything.
It's like cinema and TV has the school holidays.
Yes.
And like
September
came.
Was
away, and September was like everything's back now.
Back to school.
Go. There's loads of films out, loads of TV out.
What I do find weird is that after 3 episodes, I don't really have a good sense to tell you exactly what it's about. And I don't mean that as a criticism.
Rebellion,
I mean that it feels like, as you said, it's like what they created one part and they broke it up into 3. Because if they had only put 1 or 2 out, I would be sitting here I either wouldn't have much to say, or it just would have felt like it's too soon to have an indication of what this is about. And that's fine. I almost don't mind if they do these like little chunks, but I think they needed an hour and a half, probably. No, I think they're 40-minute episodes, so it needed that amount of time to tell me what's cool and what's different about this. I'm not going to say like this is the best thing ever. Oh my God, Andor's so good, because I really think all of this remains to be seen for how it ends. But I saw little glimpses of something that could be quite special. So it's got like a early thumbs up from me.
Okay.
I like Andor.